Hello and welcome as we continue our journey through Esther. Here we are, 4 more chapters to go. It's been a real twisty-turny story with King Xerxes and Queen Vashti, who, she was out after the first chapter, and Queen Esther was chosen to replace her, and she was a Jew married to this Persian king. Her uncle was Mordecai, who saved the king's life by foiling a plot to kill him. And then there was a man called Haman, who was the chief official, and he hated the Jews and he hated Mordecai, who refused to respect him. And then we heard how he was going to exterminate the Jews, and he had a decree that was made by the king, which he manufactured, so that in a few months' time all the Jews will be exterminated by the king's order. And Mordecai gets Esther to talk to the king, and she is going to do that. She invites the king and Haman, the chief official who hates the Jews, invites them both for dinner, and they come for their dinner, and then they go away feeling really good. And Haman decides he's going to have a tower built from which he's going to ask the king to hang Mordecai to his death, and then he'll have victory over him in preparation for exterminating all the Jews in a few months' time. But the moment that he comes to ask the question to the king has just been thinking back about how great Mordecai was for saving his life, and was wondering how he was going to honour him. So he said to Haman, how should I honour someone really good? Haman thinks he's talking about him, and so he comes up with a really good scheme, but then it turns out he was actually thinking about Mordecai, and Haman has to carry out this scheme, which is really honouring Mordecai, just really rubbing Haman's face in it. So he's really, really, really angry. And just as he's thinking about what he's going to do, then comes this invitation for the second banquet, for Haman to go for a meal with the king at the banquet of Queen Esther. And that's where we are, chapter 7. That's what's happened so far, and this is where we're getting to now, what's going to happen next in our story. Chapter 7 of Esther. The king and Haman were dining with Esther and drinking wine during the second dinner, when the king again said, "Esther, what can I do for you? Just ask, and I will give you as much as half of my kingdom." Esther answered, "Your Majesty, if you really care for me and are willing to help, you can save me and my people. That's what I really want, because a reward has been promised to anyone who kills my people. Your Majesty, if we were merely going to be sold as slaves, I would not have been bothering you." How would you dare to do such a thing?" the king asked. Esther replied, "Who would dare to do such a thing?" the king asked. Esther replied, "That evil Haman is the one out to get us." Haman was terrified as he looked at the king and the queen. The king was so angry that he got up, left his wine, and went out into the palace garden. Haman realized that the king had already decided what to do with him, and he stayed and begged Esther to save his life. Just as the king came back into the room, Haman got down on his knees beside Esther, who was lying on the couch. The king shouted, "Now you're even trying to rape my queen here in my own palace." As soon as the king said this, his servants covered Haman's head. Then Harbona, one of the king's personal servants, said, "Your Majesty, Haman built a tower 75 feet high beside his house so he could hang Mordecai on it, and Mordecai is the very one who spoke up and saved your life." "Hang Haman from his own tower," the king commanded. Right away, Haman was hanged on the tower he had built to hang Mordecai, and the king calmed down. If you thought that yesterday was a bad day for Haman, that's it. He meets his end in the same way that he had decided and planned and schemed to bring Mordecai to his end. He was literally hoisted on his own petard, as the saying goes. He was hung on his own gallows. He built this tower to hang Mordecai, and it ended up that he was the one who was hanged instead. All because Esther tells the king at just the right moment, just knows exactly how to tell him, "There's someone who's out to get my people," she says. "Out to get my people. Can you believe that, my king?" And the king says, "Who would dare to do such a thing?" And Esther points to Haman and says, "It's him. He's going to do it." And the king was mad, absolutely mad. Then again, Haman, wrong place, wrong time, kneels down beside the queen, and when the king comes in, he gets the wrong end of the stick and thinks that rather than trying to humble himself, he's trying to get away with the queen, and so that makes the king even more angry, and he calls for him to be hanged from his own tower, and so he is. And that's the end of chapter 7. It's certainly a rip-roaring story, isn't it? Not one for your breakfast, but certainly quite a story all the same. We've still got 3 chapters to go, 8, 9 and 10. Join me for Wednesday's instalment tomorrow, and we'll see what happens then. All the very, very best. Have a good day. Hope yours is a good day. God bless. Bye-bye.